Camus and Baron Bernard are discovered in a compromising situation as she reflects on the unfortunate timing of her arrival. Well, that is one way to start a new life. Aiden demands an explanation for her behavior, while Camus realizes she has been reincarnated into a romance novel. Memories of her life as a mistrusted noble daughter surface as she laments being caught in a scandalous affair. Camus looks deeply unsettled as the pressure of the confrontation begins to weigh on her. Aiden radiates a terrifying fury that matches the tragic fate Camus knows her character is destined to suffer. Fear of a penniless death haunts Camus as she struggles with the reality of her sudden possession. A sharp realization flashes in Camus's eyes as she searches for a way to change her destiny. Camus attempts to claim the situation is a misunderstanding, but Aiden remains completely unconvinced. Aiden harshly dismisses her excuses, asserting that such lies will never be accepted in this situation. Camus boldly declares that she was expecting his arrival, catching the silver-haired man off guard. Camus challenges Aiden by pointing out his long-term surveillance and suspicion of her loyalty. She resolves to push her claims of innocence to the limit in order to survive the night. Knowing the full plot of the story provides Camus with the leverage she needs to manipulate the situation. Camus details how Aiden hired a spy to confirm his belief that she was being unfaithful. She explains how Aiden intercepted a letter meant for Baron Bernard to check its contents. Camus reveals that Aiden allowed her to meet the Baron specifically to catch her in the act of cheating. Aiden is left stunned as Camus expertly explains the trap he set for her. Camus reflects on how Aiden underestimated her intelligence based on the original character's reputation. The established story dictates that Cameo should divorce Aiden and disappear as a minor character. Aiden's future is meant to be a solitary one, plagued by a permanent loss of faith in others. Camus acknowledges the small amount of sympathy she feels for the original version of herself. 5 years of a cold and loveless marriage drove the original Camus to seek comfort elsewhere. Despair wants to find her existence as she mourned the state of her broken relationship. The Baron's sweet words and manipulative talk easily swayed a heart starved for affection. Camus walks away from the past, prepared to confront the present with newfound confidence. She reaches for a mysterious book that holds the power to shift the balance of the room. Baron Bernard looks horrified while Aiden is confused as Camus presents the significant document. Camus admits to taking the sensitive book from the safe in Aiden's private study. She identifies the document as the Dumont family's confidential debtor list. Aiden questions if she truly understands the magnitude of her actions in stealing the list. Camus smirks as she reveals that the document she holds is merely a clever fake. She shocks Aiden by disclosing that the real list is safely stored in an imperial bank vault. Camus asserts that she holds all his secrets in her hands, leaving Aiden to wonder how she knows. A triumphant smile plays on her lips as she mentally credits her knowledge to having read the novel. Camus justifies her knowledge as a member of the household, while Aiden insists only he and his secretary know the truth. She enjoys the confusion she has caused by proving her awareness of his most guarded information. Camus claims the affair was a ruse to find a hidden mastermind, an idea the Baron frantically rejects. Accusations of slandering the Duke are dismissed as a foolish attempt to distract from the truth. Camus reflects on the thin line between love and hate as she maintains her composure. The Baron is left in a state of utter bewilderment by her sudden and sharp accusations. Aiden remains silent and serious, carefully processing the shocking claims made by his wife. Cameo explains that she used the fake list to draw out the person controlling the Baron. She names Duke Marlon Gerard as the true mastermind, causing a shockwave to ripple through the room. Baron Bernard panics and tries to deny any involvement with the powerful Duke. Camus calmly ignores the Baron's frantic denials, confident in the truth she has revealed. Her confidence remains unshaken as she stands her ground against the powerful men. A heavy silence fills the chamber as the weight of the revelation settles over everyone present. A weary sigh escapes Aiden as he rubs his forehead in frustration at the chaotic situation. Aiden commands Zack to arrest the Baron and take him away immediately. He stares intensely at Camus, realizing that the dynamic between them has changed forever. Aiden strictly orders the blonde woman not to take a single step out of her room. The morning sun bathes the grand white estate in a peaceful glow. A heavy thud sounds as Camus flops onto the bed, exhaling a deep sigh of relief after such a nerve-wracking performance. Someone get this girl an award already. She reflects on how the novel's true mastermind, Marlon Gerard, was only supposed to be revealed at the very end. A portrait reveals Marlon Gerard, a powerful noble whose house stands as a rival pillar and the true source of evil in the story. The narrative explains that the villainous family seeks the debtor list to gain leverage over every distinguished household in the empire. Petals drift through the air as the silver-haired man walks away into the shadows. This deep-rooted control is precisely why House Dumont has maintained its absolute influence for generations. Camus anticipates that her husband will soon begin questioning how she obtained such dangerous and secret information. Her thoughts are interrupted by a sharp metallic click as the door handle turns.
A brown-haired maid with freckles enters, looking incredibly distressed and on the verge of tears. Looking at the newcomer, Camus immediately identifies the girl as Marie.
The maid asks if the Duke discovered her illicit relationship, while Camus inwardly scoffs at the girl's blatant shamelessness. Camus looms over the trembling girl, fully aware that the maid has been a collaborator from the very beginning. With a bright, artificial smile, she asks why the maid neglected to mention that the Duke had intercepted the letter. Her expression turns cold as she reprimands the maid for acting innocent when an honest apology could have earned her forgiveness.
Desperate and terrified, the maid falls to her knees and offers a profound apology.
She pleads for mercy, explaining her fear that revealing the truth would lead to her immediate expulsion from the mansion.
Tears stream down the maid's face as she continues to beg for her lady's forgiveness.
Camus remains silent and contemplative, resting her chin on her hand as she weighs her next move. She reaches out a hand and gently commands the maid to raise her head.
The maid looks up with wide, hopeful eyes as she takes the offered hand. Patting the girl's shoulder, Camus admits she understands the difficulty of her position, but expresses disappointment in the lack of transparency. A sharp snap of fingers sounds as Camus declares that apologies are no longer enough to settle the matter.
A dark, menacing shadow falls over her face as she asks the maid to serve her instead.
The scene shifts as the sun sets, casting a warm orange hue over the sprawling manor.
In his private study, Aiden looks up from his papers and asks to confirm the maid's identity.
The brown-haired maid trembles as she confirms her name is indeed Marie.
Aiden mentions his secretary's report and his voice is punctuated by a loud bang as he slams his hand onto the desk. The pressure in the room becomes suffocating as the maid stares in wide-eyed terror at the Duke's display of power.
Aiden asks her to consider the dire consequences should his wife ever discover the existence of the secret letter.
He demands a full confession now, warning that continuing to play dumb will result in suffering for more than just herself.
An oppressive red aura fills the background as he emphasizes that the consequences will be severe for everyone involved.
A sudden gasp of breath is heard as the maid's composure finally shatters. The maid breaks down completely, confessing that she was the one who told her lady about the intercepted letter.
Leaning forward with narrowed eyes, Aiden demands a detailed explanation of exactly what she told his wife.
A thought bubble reveals the maid's manufactured story about how her lady first became suspicious of her actions.
She describes a scene where her lady pressed her for the truth until she had no choice but to reveal everything.
Aiden expresses doubt that his wife could be so perceptive, but Zach counters by stating that the lady is actually incredibly sharp. Zach reminds him of an incident from the previous year where the lady was the first to identify a maid who had stolen from the house. He explains that she pays close attention to everything, even remembering the names of the newest staff members and their specific schedules. Aiden accepts the explanation and dismisses the sobbing maid from the room. The maid leaves the room, followed by the soft thud of the door closing behind her as Zach watches her go. Looking back at his master, Zach admits he never could have imagined the lady possessed such hidden depth based on her usual behavior.
Aiden realizes that if the maid's story is true, his wife has been putting on a masterful act in his presence for years.
The narrative reflects on how easy it is for a truly intelligent person to masquerade as a fool. However, a fool can never truly imitate brilliance, leaving Aiden to wonder about the true motives behind his wife's deception.
Aiden remains in deep thought, his eyes fixed on the empty space where his wife usually sits.
Back in the safety of her room, Camus asks with a smirk if the maid delivered the lines exactly as instructed.
The maid nods determinedly, confirming that she repeated every word of the script perfectly.
Camus instructs Marie to tell the Duke that she was the one who confessed to her lady. She explains that this lie will protect Marie while proving her own intelligence and dedication to the Duke.
A sharp sound rings out as Camus' intense, wide-eyed gaze sends a shiver through the apologetic maid.
Camus reassures the nervous girl that the plan is foolproof and will prevent any further questioning from her husband.
Marie's eye widens in pure awe as she realizes the true extent of her lady's brilliance.
Camus smirks at the thought that people who believe they are clever are actually the easiest to manipulate.
A radiant light fills the air as Marie begins to view her lady in a completely different way.
Marie wonders if the lady has been masterfully pretending to be foolish throughout their entire time together.
The brown-haired maid tentatively approaches Camus, who looks back with a curious and calm expression.
Marie coughs nervously while asking if the lady has been deliberately holding back her true, caring feelings.
Camus realizes that her foolish woman act must end so she can survive the dangers of the mansion.
She looks down at the red book, determined to do whatever is necessary to ensure her survival.
Camus reflects on how she obtained the maid's diary and the household staff roster to gain leverage. Pages flip as Camus studies the house dynamics to prepare herself for her husband's inevitable summons. A diary entry recalls a maid named Sophie who was caught stealing a treasured teacup from the lady.
A happy Chibi Marie remembers bragging to her envious friends about working for the prestigious House Dumont.
The diary notes that the Duke and Duchess never show affection, leading Marie to feel pity for her lady. Camus deduces that her predecessor used the master's schedule specifically to hide her illicit affair with Baron Bernard.
She decides that while the original lady was a disappointment, she was certainly not a true villain.
Thought bubbles reflect on how beauty alone was not enough to bring happiness to the original Camus.
Camus pauses her reading to reflect on the tragic and loveless life of the woman she replaced. She envisions a scene where she and Aiden are a perfectly happy and affectionate couple surrounded by flowers. The beautiful illusion shatters like glass, reminding her of the starkly opposite personalities between herself and the Duke.
Camus drools while fangirling over Aiden's looks as Marie watches with a flat, judgmental expression.
A sharp realization snaps Camus out of her daze, bringing her back to her immediate problems. She walks toward the door, telling herself to focus on clearing her name before getting distracted by his beauty.
A week passes as the sun sets over the grand estate, shifting the scene to a formal meeting.
Camus takes a quiet, tense swallow of tea as she faces a room filled with heavy, judgmental energy.
Aiden sits with his hands clasped, staring at his wife with a cold and piercing intensity. The narrative shifts back to the grand hall where Camus remains seated before the three imposing men. Aiden gives his wife a sharp glare, his suspicion clear as he waits for her to speak. A text bubble confirms that the incident involving Sophie and the stolen teacup did indeed happen last year. A red, flame-like aura rises from the teacup as the weight of past secrets fills the room.
The butler gives a firm nod while confirming that the lady was the one who noticed the theft.
He shifts his hands with a quiet rustle as Aiden notes that the butler's testimony matches Marie's confession. The focus shifts to the interrogation of Baron Bernard and the secrets he may be hiding. Aiden explains that the Baron stubbornly insisted that he never mentioned a mastermind to the Duchess. He continues by stating that the Baron believes her accusations against Duke Gerard are nothing more than delusions. Camus lets out a weary sigh while the Duke and his loyal guards stare at her with intense suspicion.
Camus's lips curl into a dark smirk as she dismisses the suggestion that she might be feeling unwell.
She lets out a delighted squeal in her mind, finding the sight of three suspicious men together completely precious. The narrative introduces the Duke's elite retainers, Zack the intelligence agent and Mail the skilled bodyguard. Profiles of the two men highlight their status as the loyal protectors who support Aiden from the shadows. Camus clutches her chest as her heart thumps loudly, struggling to maintain her composure around the handsome men.
She tells Aiden that she dislikes the interrogation, but he insists that their suspicion is only natural.
Aiden leans forward and demands to know exactly how she learned that Duke Gerard was the mastermind. The screen fades into an abstract background, signaling the start of a new chapter in the unfolding drama. Camus shocks the Duke by casually claiming that her world-shattering revelation was nothing more than a simple hunch. She smiles radiantly, asserting that such a feat is to be expected from the Duchess of Dumont.
Aiden looks at her with narrowed eyes, demanding to know why she pretended to be a fool for so long.
Camus reflects on how suspicious her husband is and realizes he thinks she is an idiot who is easily manipulated by flattery. Aiden demands to know why she felt the need to go to such extremes. Camus smiles with an air of refined elegance.
Aiden watches her with intense, calculating focus.
Camus explains that she is constantly swarmed by people seeking the Duke's favor whenever she attends social gatherings.
Her cold, sharp gaze remains hidden behind an ornate lace fan. She notes that those who make the most passionate advances are often the ones hiding the darkest ambitions. Mentioning that Baron Bernard was suspicious from the start, Camus remains seated before the three imposing men.
Camus explains that she allowed the rumors to persist because acting like a fool makes everyone lower their guard.
The two retainers look on with visible shock as they struggle to process her revelation. Aiden asks why she was so sure Duke Gerard was backing the Baron, and she dismisses Bernard as a worthless leech. Camus questions if a man like that would really risk everything for the Dumont family list based on mere rumors. Aiden looks on with a dark, intense expression as he admits the situation is indeed ridiculous. Camus claims she happened to overhear him talking with Mathis, a statement he immediately rejects as impossible. Camus maintains that her knowledge is a fact, prompting a weary sigh from her husband. She reminds him that they are a husband and wife living under the same roof, regardless of how much he denies it. Aiden reacts with a sudden visible jolt as the weight of her words hits him. Camus notices his guilt and realizes she might be able to use that vulnerability to her advantage in the future. Aiden presses her to explain exactly why she is so confident that the Baron is working for Duke Gerard. Camus admits to herself that she hasn't thought of a convincing excuse yet as Aiden demands a response.
She describes Duke Gerard as a man who never reveals any openings or weaknesses to his enemies.
Standing before the group, Camus suggests there is a specific way to force the Baron into a full confession. Aiden asks to hear the plan, even as Camus warns him that the process may take some time. A moment of silence follows as she proposes they give the plan a try.
In his dark cell, the imprisoned Baron wonders how a woman he thought was stupid managed to uncover his secrets.
A heavy thud echoes as Mail enters the prison cell and towers over the panicked prisoner. The Baron's shackles are suddenly released as Mail announces that he is being set free.
Stunned, the Baron listens as Mail explains that his release is conditional on him never setting foot in the capital again. The prisoner stares up in disbelief, finding the condition for his freedom to be absolutely ridiculous. Mail warns him to use his 3 days of grace to leave and never tarnish the honor of House Dumont. A chilling threat hangs in the air as he warns that the Baron will never see daylight again if he fails. Under the glow of a full moon, Camille enjoys a quiet moment with a cup of tea on her balcony. A quick clink sounds as she sets her tea down while the Baron flees into the night below.
Kama notes how surprisingly fast people move when they are properly motivated.
She anticipates a month-long wait for a confession and realizes she will likely remain under house arrest until his doubts clear.
Camus asks the freckled maid to bring her some books to read, leaving the girl completely bewildered.
Explaining that her boredom is driving her crazy, Camille stands in her lavish room while the maid agrees.
The maid points out that she would need to enter the Duke's private study to find anything to read. Surrounded by a radiant floral aura, Camille decides she should go and borrow the books herself.
The freckled maid looks on with an expression of pure, unadulterated concern.
Her eyes widen in panic as she struggles to process her lady's bold and unexpected decision.
A loud, panicked scream of "What?" echoes through the silent night air surrounding the grand mansion.
Aiden stares at her with a cold, flat expression and asks her to repeat herself. Camus claps her hands together with a bright, cheerful smile as flowers bloom in the background.
Aiden looks at her with pure skepticism, clearly doubting her sudden interest in reading books.
Camus assures him that he can relax because she has no hidden motives behind her simple request.
She explains that her only goal is to find a way to kill time while she is confined to her room.
Aiden doubts there is anything in his study she could even understand, but she remains determined to look.
With a sharp scrape of his chair, Aiden stands up and commands her to follow him.
Camus blushes slightly, caught off guard by his sudden and blunt compliance. Camus says she can go herself, but Aiden insists he is not doing this for her sake. Aiden looks away with cold indifference. Camus finds him incredibly dishonest with himself.
They walk together through a floral hallway.
They enter a massive, ornate family library. Camus is amazed by the scale, but Aiden notes she acts as if it is her first time seeing it.
Camus remembers that she stole the list from this exact location.
Camus remembers the original lady affectionately calling a book her Liam.
Aiden observes her suspiciously, wondering if she is being brazen or simply shameless.
Camus chooses to be called brazen and insists she has done nothing wrong.
She searches the shelves, doubting he keeps any light owls.
She reaches for a specific brown volume. Camus realizes she can read the war history text with ease.
Aiden warns her that the book is too difficult, but she questions if it is really that bad. He explains that even scholars often give up halfway through the text. Aiden offers to pick out something else. She stops him with a firm refusal. Camus confidently declares she will take the book. Aiden is shocked when she claims she will finish 12 volumes in 2 weeks.
Aiden stares at her with disbelief.
Aiden notes that it took him an entire month to read through them all. He questions her weird confidence and complete lack of limits.
Aiden challenges her to finish just 1 volume within the 2-week time frame.
Camus demands a promise that he will not go back on his word.
Aiden holds a heavy stack of books. Camus watches him with a key plush.
She shakes her head to regain focus.
Aiden tells her to open the door while he carries the books to her room. Camus asks if he is really sure. Camus asks if he is sure, noting that the books must be heavy.
Aiden insists they are not heavy at all, despite his annoyed expression. Aiden rejects a servant's help with the books. Camus hides a dark, satisfied smirk.
Aiden walks away carrying the books. The grand mansion stands beneath the stars. A glowing lamp illuminates the nightstand. Camus sits in bed reading a book.
The maid urges her to get some rest. Camus tells her to go to bed first, and the maid bows respectfully.
Camus closes the heavy book firmly.
Camus admits the book is hard and decides to look up unknown words. She thinks about her previous life's reading habits.
A silhouette shows her surrounded by books. Camus identifies herself as a former bookworm.
Camus refuses to be underestimated and vows to succeed.
The vast night sky remains peaceful. Aiden sleeps soundly in his bed.
Silver-haired Aiden looks calm while sleeping.
His eyes are closed in deep sleep.
Camus vows to finish the task and wipe the smug look off his face.
Hands hold a leather-bound book.
In a memory, Aiden's father explains he received the book at 16 and challenges the boy to read it to become a real man.
The young silver-haired boy smiles warmly.
His father recalls a special invitation.
The boy reads diligently by himself. A rhythmic, quiet tap sounds as his father walks away, leaving him to finish the challenging task. A sudden, loud bam echoes as the boy resolves to finish the book within 2 months.
A sudden, weary pant sounds as the monocled butler watches the boy's relentless study habits.
The young boy stares with intense determination. He hopes to share drinks in.
Mourners gather as a servant calls out to the young master during his father's funeral.
The silver-haired boy weeps in grief. Spilled wine marks a tragic accident. A soft, quick rustle sounds as an adult Aiden walks through the palace, reflecting on how purging his uncle changed everything.
Aiden resolves to trust no one.
Camus smiles with a gentle radiance.
The two stand apart in cold silence.
A sudden, sharp rustle sounds as Aiden reaches for the forgotten book once he reaches adulthood. The book details a violent history. Night falls over the quiet library.
Camus joyfully accepts the reading's homage.
Aiden scoffs at her Shurdaikain.
A sudden, loud roar sounds as a chibi Camus fumes with rage while her terrified maid begs her to calm down.
A sudden, light flap sounds as white birds fly through a vibrant sunset sky.
A sudden, rhythmic scratch sounds as the Duchess finishes her writing and declares the task complete. Aiden questions what she finished, and Camus reminds him that she has met the deadline for the war history.
The silver-haired man looks on suspiciously.
Camus laments his low opinion of her while noting she read all 12 volumes in full.
The legendary history book glows faintly.
The book details a historical conflict.
The author meticulously documented his travels.
Aiden stares in silent, stunned disbelief.
Cammy remarks on the political insights she gained from her extensive reading.
Aiden begins to sweat as he wonders if the Duchess cheated by getting the butler to feed her the answers.
A sudden, quiet clink sounds as the silver-haired man sets down his pen.
Aiden challenges her with a question. Camus correctly identifies the first country the author visited as Mayuan, noting its southern border and lineage of queens.
He probes deeper into the journey.
She describes a false murder accusation. Aiden tests her on a battle detail.
The Duchess confidently corrects his mistake.
A sudden light swish sounds as Camus points to her eye, identifying that Ivandius lost his left eye, not his right.
Aiden is shocked as she names the young enemy soldier who struck the mate. Camus offers a triumphant, radiant smile.
She asks if he has more questions.
Aiden looks completely baffled and overwhelmed. The silver-haired man admits this defeat. Camus finds his honesty quite refreshing. The Duchess secretly wishes she had seen him cry, though she is satisfied with her victory.
Aiden asks for her wish, but sternly warns her that her house arrest will remain in place.
Camus reminds Aiden that he promised her freedom of choice. Aiden's intense gaze remains cold and unwavering. Camus declines to use her favor to end her house arrest.
A sudden, sharp click signals the arrival of the butler with tea.
Camus winks playfully while promising to claim her favor later. Camus politely takes her leave and exits for study.
The butler bows deeply as the blonde woman passes.
Aiden watches her walk away with a skeptical expression.
Victor serves Aiden tea to help soothe his exhaustion.
The butler stands with a calm and dignified posture.
Aiden asks Victor if he's noticed anything unusual about Camus.
Victor considers her recent behavior while under house arrest.
Victor recalls a recent encounter with the Duchess.
Camus greets the butler with an enthusiastic and bright smile.
The kind head butler, Victor, is known for his gentle nature.
Victor was the sole person who treated Camus with kindness. Camus is thrilled to find Victor even more wonderful in person. Victor becomes flustered when Camus eagerly grasps his hands. Camus catches herself and resolves to act with proper dignity. Camus tells Victor that she wishes to discuss Adar. Camus asks Victor to treat her with more casual familiarity. Victor appears hesitant given how Camus treated him before. Camus expresses genuine regret for her past selfish behavior.
Victor is stunned by her sincere and humble apology.
Camus promises to work hard to earn his respect. Victor pledges his loyalty while Camus admires his goodness. Back in the present, Aiden is shocked by her gratitude. Victor confirms that her joyful smile seemed entirely real. The image of her radiant smile lingers in their paths. Victor tells Aiden that her kindness didn't feel like acting. Aiden wonders what could be behind her sudden change. He sees no tactical reason to deceive the butler. Aiden notes her flawless understanding of a complex historical text. Aiden decides he must accept this as her true self.
Swirling darkness marks a shift in the scene's atmosphere.
A sudden wet sniff echoes through the quiet night.
The drunken baron stumbles through the street, cursing all women.
He fumes over Camus being the one to truck him. He wonders how she discovered the secret mastermind. He notes that he never met Gerard in person. The baron continues drinking as he staggers down the path. He suddenly collides with a large, unmoving stranger. The baron falls and angrily demands to know who's there. A massive, imposing man towers over the fallen drunkard.
The stranger looks down with a cold, terrifying expression.
The giant man suddenly grabs the baron by the throat. The baron struggles desperately to be let go. The stranger notes the baron's erratic and intoxicated state. The baron fears his life is ending in the street.
Abstract colors transition into a blood-red sunset sky.
A series of small bubbles rise to the water's surface with a soft, quick glug-glug sounding.
A mysterious hooded figure stands tall against the vibrant colors of a fading sunset.
The baron gasps for air as a hand suddenly tightens around his throat. Slumped on the ground, the baron coughs violently before the imposing silhouette of his captor. Clinging to his bruised neck, the trembling baron demands to know the stranger's identity. Shadowed beneath a deep hood, the silent man looks down with a cold and piercing gaze.
The stranger reaches up with a steady hand to pull back his dark hood.
Male reveals his face, standing ready with a heavy sword strapped to his hip.
The Baron's eyes widen in shock as he recognizes the man from their previous encounter. Male commands the Baron to start telling the truth about his mysterious master. The Baron desperately denies having any idea what the dark-haired man is talking about. Beads of sweat roll down the Baron's face as his panic reaches its peak. Male explains that if he hadn't intervened, the Baron would be the one dead in the river.
Male notes that a drowning would have been dismissed as an accident, leaving the Baron stunned. Male confirms that someone wants the Baron dead and was patient enough to wait a month.
Male demands the name of the person behind the theft, offering protection in exchange for the truth.
Male warns the Baron that he will otherwise live in constant fear of the next assassination.
The Baron grimaces in silent conflict as he weighs the heavy threat against his life.
Shaking with terror, the broken man finally prepares to confess.
As tea is poured, the Baron admits he was acting on Duke Gerard's orders.
Back in the study, Male reports that an unknown man approached the Baron 2 months ago.
Aiden asks for a description, and Male describes a man with unremarkable features and brown hair. Male notes that the Baron initially refused a job from someone he couldn't identify. A memory shows the Baron being approached by a cloaked figure in a dim tavern.
The stranger secured the Baron's cooperation by revealing the official Gerard family crest.
Male reflects that the Baron would have likely been killed even if he had succeeded.
Aiden orders Male to ensure the Baron's safety through a secure route as they planned.
Male questions their next move regarding Gerard, but Aiden notes the testimony alone isn't enough.
Male warns that going public now would risk exposing the secret list they possess.
Aiden falls into deep thought, his expression troubled by the complexity of the situation.
A silent realization confirms that everything has happened exactly as Camus predicted.
Camus previously sat with Aiden, suggesting they try her plan despite the time it would take. Aiden explains his strategy to release and follow the Baron to bait out Gerard's assassins. He anticipates the exact moment they will need to intervene to save the target.
Camus looks on with a confident and knowing smile. She points out that saving the Baron's life will make getting a confession much easier.
In the present, Aiden wonders just how far ahead his wife was actually thinking.
He stares ahead, amazed that she seems to possess the ability to see the future. Aiden asks Male if he still believes the Duchess could be a spy for Gerard.
Mile remains cautious, insisting they must keep every possibility in mind for their safety.
Aiden considers the chilling thought that their entire marriage was part of a larger scheme. Male looks uncertain, finding it difficult to judge the Duchess's true intentions one way or another.
Camus sits peacefully in her bed, focused on reading her book under the soft light.
Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap-tap sounding at the door.
Marie enters as Camus hides her book while another hand reaches for the door handle.
Aiden steps into the room, his sudden appearance catching the blonde woman off guard. Camus looks up in surprise, her face flushing as she clutches her blankets.
Aiden's face turns bright red as he stands frozen at the sight of her.
Camus hurriedly asks Marie for a wrap while Aiden turns away with a quick, embarrassed cough.
Turning his back completely, Aiden insists he is fine while Camus watches him with a puzzled look.
Camus stands alone with a serious and contemplative expression.
Her request for privacy is met with a soft, quick click sounding as the maid departs.
Camus confronts Aiden about the confession they managed to extract. Camus remains cheerful while Aiden dismisses her words as completely ridiculous. Camus privately observes that he is even more stubborn than she anticipated. Aiden insists there is no other way and promises to ensure her safety. The silver-haired man reminds her that it is his duty to protect the Duchess. Aiden extends his hand toward her with a look of intense and heartfelt resolve. Camus asks him why he cannot simply accept the truth of their situation.
She admits that she is not yet ready to share certain secrets with him.
Aiden considers her words with a troubled and deeply searching gaze. Aiden warns that her silence threatens the security of their house while Camus remains defiant. Aiden is visibly taken aback by the intensity of her stare.
Camus leans in close to the Duke, her expression unwavering and sharp.
Aiden speaks her name in a low, uncertain voice as he stares into her eyes. Camus claims she would have shared everything if they shared true trust. Aiden acknowledges her point while still appearing deeply conflicted. Aiden questions why she felt the need to deceive him specifically. The two stand in silence within the glowing, ethereal space of the room.
Camus explains her previous act was an attempt to make him love her.
Aiden looks on in stunned silence at her startling admission of deception. Camus reflects on 5 years of unrequited effort and his lack of interest.
The blonde woman prepares to make a final decisive point.
Aiden asks if she has finally made a decision regarding their relationship. Camus stands firm before the Duke, ready to speak her mind. She notes his shock but maintains she has a proper reason for her choices. Camus recalls the original novel that dictates the events of their world. She remembers that the original story was a child-rearing romance fantasy.
Camus anticipates the arrival of Elodie, the girl Aiden is destined to adopt.
A vision shows Aiden eventually falling for Elodie's undeniable cuteness. The story predicts he will become a doting father who cannot let her go.
Elodie is depicted wearing a royal crown as the true heroine of the tale.
The scene shifts to the young protagonist stepping confidently into her role. Elodie is destined to resolve various incidents that plague the kingdom.
A clash between Elodie and the villainous Gerard looms in the future.
Camus collapses in despair, fearing Aiden and Elodie might never meet.
She vows that she absolutely cannot allow the original plot to fail.
Aiden is shocked as Camus declares Elodie is her absolute favorite character.
Camus blushes deeply as she reflects on her love for the story. Camus questions if their marriage was only a tool for political succession.
She suggests it is time for her to exit the stage and asks for a divorce.
Aiden firmly rejects the idea of a divorce over such a trivial reason.
Camus insists she has a much more serious motivation for leaving.
She reminds him that a social scandal with Baron Bernard is ruining her reputation.
Aiden clenches his hand at the mention of her being considered dead weight.
Aiden grows angry, insisting she is the one who is misunderstanding everything.
Camus is baffled by his intense reaction, having expected him to feel relieved.
Aiden towers over her with a cold and imposing presence.
Aiden demands to know why she would suddenly bring up divorce now.
Aiden decides to ignore her request, admitting they have neglected their communication.
Aiden turns to leave, promising to fulfill her wishes whenever he can as the door shuts with a soft click.
The blonde woman tells him she isn't finished, but Aiden apologizes for the late hour and departs as the door creaks shut.
Camus stands alone before the doors. The blonde woman looks utterly confused by the Duke's sudden departure. A grand window overlooks the night. Aiden walks down the long, quiet corridor of the mansion. The silver-haired man wonders why his wife makes such outrageous demands as his shoes come to a sudden halt. A close look at his shoes.
He wonders if her request for a divorce was truly as outrageous as he first thought.
Transition to memories of parties. In a flashback, a noblewoman greets the Duke and notes the honor of meeting him.
A young Camus approaches Aiden, noting that he might not remember her.
She smiles brightly, reminding him that they have met at several previous parties.
A teacup shatters on the floor with a loud crash as someone yells about being sent to a party alone.
Camus confronts her husband, shouting that society is already gossiping about his lack of love for her. The blonde woman looks furious, declaring his behavior to be far too cruel.
She threatens to return to her family home if he continues to treat her coldly while Aiden remains silent.
Aiden reflects that they argued constantly during their first 2 years, eventually falling into a silence that lasted 3 more. Aiden sits alone, musing that political marriages are common and usually remain superficial.
A fire crackles in the hearth as he recalls giving her a life of luxury and total freedom.
He believed he was fulfilling his role as a husband, even as his wife suffered in the background.
Aiden looks indifferent in Honoree. Aiden is haunted by the realization that her past actions were motivated by a fear of being hated.
In the present, the blonde woman suggests they use the current situation to reconsider their marriage. Aiden is visibly shaken, whispering the word divorce to himself with a dark expression. He wonders if her real intention is simply to throw him off balance.
Morning sun shines on the mansion.
Camus asks Victor for advice on how to properly convince Aiden of her decision.
Victor is puzzled by her sudden request, noting it would be more expected if it came from the Duke.
The butler admits their relationship lacks affection, yet he recalls how she always worried about the Duke in the past.
Camus tells Victor he's the only one who truly understands the silver-haired man as he bows respectfully.
The blonde woman privately notes that his loyalty is exactly why the original Camus was so jealous of her.
Camus reassures the worried butler that she only needs some simple advice.
Victor asks if she truly intends to divorce the Duke, and she confirms she is done with their pointless marriage.
Victor claims the Duke does not share her desire for divorce, leaving Camus surprised.
The butler clutches his chest.
Victor begs the Duchess to give his master just one more chance to make things right.
He believes clearing their misunderstandings will change her feelings, while Camus looks on in silence.
Camus is frustrated, thinking that everything would be easier if her past self had simply disappeared.
Camus rests her hand on the table. She considers a different approach.
Camus chews her food boppily.
The blonde woman decides she might have to use a specific option to achieve her goal.
A chandelier hangs from the ceiling.
Camus asks to have her house arrest lifted, arguing that staying shut away for 2 months will start rumors.
Aiden agrees to release her from the mansion's confinement.
Camus is pleased with herself, having predicted he would cave to her pressure within a week.
She asks if he received the invitation to the upcoming party. She questions if he intends to make her attend the Rochepal estate party alone again. Camus is left wide-eyed and speechless by his unexpected response. Aiden shocks the blonde woman by firmly declaring that he will be attending the upcoming party alongside her.
The ducal couple sits in a heavy silence at the tea table following his unexpected announcement.
Camus is baffled, reflecting that the Duke usually avoids any social gatherings not hosted by the imperial family.
The blonde woman admits her deep surprise as her husband settles back into his seat.
Aiden smiles thinly, suggesting that appearing together is the best way to silence the persistent rumors regarding their marriage.
The silver-haired man looks perfectly composed and imposing as he sips his tea.
Camus stands frozen before the Duke, unable to fully process his sudden shift in behavior.
She privately fumes at his implication that their relationship was ever healthy to begin with.
A pair of legs walks down a hallway before a hand presents a formal invitation on a silver tray.
At the Rochpaul estate, an older man with gray hair tied back reads the letter with a look of stunned disbelief.
At the Granville estate, a brown-haired woman is equally shocked to receive a personal message from the Duchess of Dumont.
The gray-haired man's eyes widen as he processes the weight of the news. The brown-haired woman stares at the paper, her purple eyes reflecting her confusion. Camus visits the estate where a tiered stand of fine pastries has been prepared for her. The blonde woman politely compliments the fragrance of the tea.
The brown-haired woman and the gray-haired man are delighted that the tea suits her prestigious tastes.
Camus brings up the subject of the weekend's party with a piercing and focused gaze. The gray-haired man is overjoyed to hear that the Duchess intends to attend the event in person. He becomes even more excited when she hints that the Duke will be joining her as well. Camus notes his reaction, reflecting that his shock is entirely expected given the Duke's reputation. The hosts are thrown into a flurry of excitement, realizing that Aiden's presence will instantly elevate their social standing.
Camus asks for permission to see the guest list, catching the gray-haired man off guard.
She explains that she wants to be prepared since it has been a long time since she attended a party with her husband.
A close-up shows her hands clasped together as she awaits his response.
The gray-haired man eagerly agrees to fetch the list for her right away. The mansion's interior glows under the soft, ethereal light of the afternoon. A carriage is seen through the window as it departs from the estate. The hosts discuss the visit, concluding that the rumors of a rift in the ducal marriage must have been false. The brown-haired woman agrees, noting that the rest of high society is in for a significant shock. Camus sits alone and reviews the guest list, her expression focused and calculating. A close look at the pages of the document she holds.
The blonde woman smiles to herself, pleased to have secured the information without any trouble.
The brown-haired woman greets her visitor with a warm and bright expression, calling her by her title. Camus recognizes Audrey Granville, noting that she perfectly matches the original story's description of a polished aristocrat.
Audrey invites Camus to relax and asks after her well-being.
Camus reflects on the official story she used to explain her recent seclusion.
She suspects that while Audrey is kind enough to believe her, other nobles likely suspect her affair was exposed.
Audrey mentions the flowers she received and expresses her relief at the Duchess's apparent recovery.
Camus gracefully dismisses the thanks, maintaining her facade of humble nobility. She recalls that in the original novel, Audrey was Elodie's chaperone and known for her warm, gentle character.
Audrey offers a small gift from her carriage, but Camus insists she only did what anyone would do.
Camus gently pressures Audrey into accepting her favor, ensuring their connection is strengthened.
The blonde woman shifts the conversation by asking about Audrey's daughter Louise.
Camus expresses deep concern for the child's fragile health, successfully endearing herself to the moved mother.
She offers a special medicinal tea for colds, further cementing Audrey's trust and gratitude. Camus prepares to reveal the true motive behind her visit.
She smiles enigmatically as she admits she has a specific favor to ask. Camus takes Audrey's hands in hers, creating an intimate atmosphere as Audrey asks for details.
She describes the lingering effects of her recent fever to set the stage for her request.
Camus claims she has lost the ability to remember faces and names, establishing a perfect cover for her future social maneuvers.
A narrative transition emphasizes the importance of her loved ones. Camus clarifies her meaning to a distressed Audrey who finds the news terribly upsetting. The blonde woman admits she struggles to remember the names of people she encounters. A firm, supportive grip is shared between the two women as a soft, rhythmic "gew" sound emanates from the touch.
Audrey eagerly offers her assistance while Camus smiles privately. A hand slams onto the table as a sharp "dawn" sound echoes while the brown-haired woman provides the necessary attendee list.
Camus looks down at the document with a satisfied expression.
The blonde woman's reflection shows her growing confidence.
As she sits by the window, a rustling "gasha" sound comes from the bushes where a hidden figure watches. A mysterious man in a brown hood observes her with a sharp gaze. Camus stands outside the gates and expresses her profound gratitude to Audrey.
Audrey feels relieved to have helped and invites the Duchess to call on her anytime. The blonde woman offers a bright, practiced smile.
Audrey looks slightly confused by an unspoken question.
Camus claps her hands and prepares to discuss a more serious matter.
A playful foo-foo giggle escapes the blonde woman as she conceals her true thoughts. A promise of absolute secrecy is made amidst a backdrop of pink flowers.
Audrey smiles warmly, placing a hand over her heart in a gesture of sincerity.
Camus asks Audrey to extend the request to her staff, leaving Audrey surprised by the scope. The blonde woman offers to pay the maids double for their cooperation, shocking the brown-haired woman. Audrey hesitates, asking if there is a deeper reason for such bold actions.
Camus leans in, indicating that she is about to share a private secret.
She reveals that her husband is unaware of her memory loss despite his suspicions, while her hands grip her skirt with a tense mojo sound.
Camus feigns fear that Aiden will divorce her if he learns the truth, causing a heavy Doku thought in Audrey's heart.
Audrey cannot fathom the Duke taking such a cruel step.
The brown-haired woman looks shocked as Camus continues her performance.
Camus insists her husband is much stricter than he appears. The two women share a moment of heavy silence.
Audrey gives her solemn word to keep the secret.
The Grand Ducal Mansion stands tall under a clear sky.
In the hall, a group of servants bow deeply as a door opens with a sudden gah sound. A foot in a jeweled blue heel steps forward with a sharp ton sound.
Aiden stops in his tracks, his eyes widening as he catches sight of his wife.
The silver-haired man's pupil reflects the stunning image of the blonde woman. Camus descends the grand staircase in a magnificent blue gown flanked by her maid. Aiden is momentarily breathless as he looks at her. The blonde woman notices his intense focus and becomes curious. Camus feels self-conscious under his unwavering gaze, wondering if her outfit is unsuitable. Aiden snaps out of his daze, asking if she intends to stare right through him.
She tilts her head, wondering if something is wrong with her appearance.
Camus offers a gentle, radiant smile. The couple walks through the hall with a series of rhythmic kotsu footsteps.
Victor approaches the Duke with a formal greeting as he enters. The butler is practically on fire with excitement, asking if Aiden truly failed to notice the significance of the moment.
Victor points out that she is wearing the exact dress Aiden gifted her for their first anniversary.
A close look at the elegant blue fabric of the special gown. Aiden tries to dismiss the choice as a coincidence for the party, but Victor remains unconvinced.
The silver-haired man is visibly shaken by the realization. Victor passionately declares this is Aiden's best chance to win back her heart.
The butler's eyes gleamed with intense determination behind his glasses as he urged his master to act.
A reminder to compliment her echoes.
Rhythmic gotan sounds fill the carriage.
Aiden sits in silence, looking pensive.
Camus anticipates the intense high society atmosphere. Marie's visible anxiety was completely overwhelming. A sharp gong sound mirrors Marie's shock. Marie is shocked that no dressmaker was hired, but Camus finds the current selection sufficient and environmentally friendly. Marie fears high society will mock the Duchess for lack of extravagance, but Camus thanks her for the concern. A light shasha rustle as clothes rove.
Disappointment shows through a heavy gakuri slump.
Flashy dresses hang together on the rack.
Selecting a dress brings a quiet patso.
Camus travels in her selected gown.
Camus considers her wealth post-divorce.
Aiden notes the dress is well kept. The Duke remains composed and stock. Aiden notes its age despite looking new, causing Camus a startled gotta rattle. She realizes the dress is very old. Camus asks if he recognizes the gown, and Aiden admits he could never forget it. A husband's sudden attention feels significant. A realization strikes like a lightning bolt. Camus fears she wore the late Duchess's dress, her hands trembling with a gotta shake. Aiden exhales with a soft sue. Camus asks if he dislikes the choice. The couple sits in heavy carriage silence. Anxiety clouds the blonde woman's face. Aiden looks at her in confusion. Aiden questions her doubt, while Camus asks for his honest opinion on her look as the door opens with a Gaussian click. In a memory, Aiden gives a simple yes while sipping tea with a Zuzu slurp. Camus scolds Aiden for ignoring her despite wearing his favorite dress.
Realizing it was his favorite, Camus grits her teeth with a sharp geary sound.
The memory of his gift hits hard. Aiden wonders about her lingering feelings. Aiden clarifies his stance, leaving Camus perplexed. Aiden blushes as he compliments how well she wears the dress. Camus feels a pekiku twitch from the sudden romantic atmosphere. She offers a quiet, stunned thanks. Aiden's shift in behavior is unsettling. The carriage continues with a steady goten. Wine splashes with a light chipon sound. A Zawa murmur spreads per dest.
The couple makes a grand entrance together.
Nobles whisper in shock at the Duke's attendants, questioning the rumors of their failing marriage.
Aiden acknowledges the crowd's shock and tells Camus to remain confident. Camus grips his arm with a gyu squeeze, causing Aiden a startled biku jolt. He wonders if she is feeling nervous. Lighting highlights the chandelier of her. Camus adjusts her expression with a coup. Aiden's cheeks flush right in response. Aiden turns away with her shirt free. A gray-haired man in a military coat warmly welcomes Duke and Duchess Dumont to the gathering. Aiden and Camus stand together as the silver-haired man offers a polite thanks for the invitation. Camus smiles and leans toward Aiden, claiming her husband has been looking forward to this for days. A sharp hidden pinch from Camus results in a painful dosu impact against Aiden's side. Aiden clenches his jaw and winces with a low coo groan from the unexpected strike.
The host looks around with a puzzled expression, asking for the whereabouts of the Viscountess.
Camus gracefully waves off the concern, assuming the hostess must be occupied with her many duties. The host stands in awe of the couple while Camus maintains her radiant and composed expression. Aiden requests a moment to discuss a business matter, and the host eagerly agrees to lead the way. Rhythmic Sutta footsteps echo as the men walk away to speak privately in another room. Left on her own, the blonde woman takes a moment to observe the surrounding grand hall. Aiden casts a lingering and curious glance back over his shoulder at his wife as he departs. Camus offers a small, polite wave accompanied by a bright and cheerful Nico smile. The scene shifts to the grand ballroom where a gay murmur of socialites fills the air. Camus stands alone at the buffet table, contentedly eating a piece of strawberry shortcake. A trio of noblewomen approaches the Duchess, their gay chatter signaling their arrival from across the room. Camus looks up in surprise while still chewing, her gaze meeting a red-haired woman framed by roses.
A flash of recognition occurs as Camille realizes she knows exactly who these three women are.
The three ladies loom with malicious intent, surrounded by dark, thorny vines and purple flowers.
The red-haired woman asks after the Duchess's health with a thin and condescending smile.
She mentions Camus' sudden retreat into seclusion, claiming she was deeply worried by the news of her illness.
Camus finds the hollow, noble small talk exhausting, letting out a quiet and bored he sigh. A title identifies the red-haired woman as Nadia, the Marchioness of Rua, and a social rival to Camus.
A memory of a wedding kiss highlights that Aiden chose Camus over Nadia many years ago.
Nadia is shown in black mourning attire beside a coffin, having lost her husband in an accident.
Camus recalls how Nadia has spent years taking out her bitterness by tormenting her whenever they meet.
Nadia mockingly questions the changing Camus' style, wondering if it was an attempt to impress the Duke. Her companions join in the ridicule, praising the Duke's gentlemanly nature while labeling Camus as subdued.
The women snicker and ask if she's feeling well, causing a flare of muca irritation in Camus.
With a soft coat on, Camus sets her plate down on the table to address the group directly. Fueled by a newfound confidence, Camus declares she is in perfect health thanks to her husband's devotion.
The noblewomen are visibly shaken as Camus describes how Aiden personally tended to her during her fever.
Camus hides a giggle behind her hand, suggesting that her husband has a secret, gentle side for her alone.
She stands tall and explains that Aiden only shows his warmth to the people who truly matter. The green-haired lady admits she never would have imagined the strict Duke acting so tenderly.
Nadia's expression turns sour as she accuses the Duchess of exaggerating the Duke's behavior.
Camus smiles pityingly, telling Nadia she understands why it is difficult for her to imagine such devotion.
A wave of muca fury washes over Nadia as Camus repeats that Aiden's kindness is exclusive.
Camus turns the tables by mockingly pitying Nadia for attending the gala without a companion to rely on.
The Marchioness and her friends are stunned into a frozen silence by the bold and public retort.
Nearby guests gasp in shock as the news of the Duchess's sharp tongue spreads through the hall.
Nadia and her group erupt in outrage, demanding an apology for what they call a rude remark.
Camus looks completely bored by the dramatics, letting out a dismissive and low sigh.
She recalls how Nadia shamelessly flirted with Aiden after her husband died, proving her obvious hypocrisy.
Camus feigns innocence, claiming she meant no harm and mirroring the same excuses her bullies once used.
A sharp glint in the blonde woman's eye causes the green-haired lady to freeze in place.
Camus notes that rudeness does not simply vanish, leaving her antagonist with a startled Biku jolt.
The Duchess towers over the three women with a commanding and unshakable presence in the ballroom.
Camus points out that these women use the exact same excuses whenever they insulted her in the past.
With a wide-eyed Kyotin look, she asks why it is a problem now that she's doing the same.
Camus realizes she should have expressed her anger long ago.
The two ladies are frozen in absolute terror.
Nadia calls the situation a dilemma, but Camus questions what exactly she means by that.
Camus directly confronts the group, pointing out that they have spent years constantly insulting her. She emphasizes that their long history of insults has not gone unnoticed by her.
Camus mocks them by asking if they would prefer to avoid her husband's retaliation. A close look at the Duchess reveals her cold intensity. Camus stands tall as her rivals shrink away in shame.
She notes that the group only panics when she mentions her husband, realizing her power comes from him.
Surrounded by dark roses, Camus admits that the situation is complicated for her. The Duchess stares at her antagonist, asking what her final choice will be.
Nadia sweats and stammers that they were telling the truth, while Camus offers a knowing smile. Nadia's wide eyes betray her intense internal fear.
Camus brightly asks if they will accept her words at face value just as she has theirs. The women reluctantly agree as Camus declares her intention to enjoy the party in peace.
Camus walks away, leaving her enemies behind.
The companions whisper in frustrated social defeat.
Gritting her teeth, Nadia wonders why she must be humiliated by someone like Camus.
Nadia watches the Duchess depart while vowing to never forget this humiliation.
Aiden's hand grips the door as he goes to find the Viscount.
Aiden asks for an honest answer, while the Viscount agrees to tell him whatever he needs.
The Duke asks what Camus talked about when she visited the estate the other day. Camus apparently wanted to know in advance which guests would be attending the gala. The Viscount reveals that she simply asked for a party's guest list.
Aiden specifically inquires if Viscountess Granbelle was included on that guest list.
The Viscount pauses to think as Aiden watches him with a suspicious and heavy gaze. A sudden, sharp realization strikes the Viscount with a gasp.
Aiden looks deeply troubled as the truth begins to surface.
Camus visited the Granbelle estate immediately after leaving the Rockpaul household.
In a memory, the Duchess looks pensively out of a large window.
A mysterious hooded figure watches Camus from the darkness outside.
The spy remains hidden while tracking the Duchess's movements.
Aiden is told that Camus only went to the Granbelle estate to deliver a gift.
A scarred man suggests it is almost impossible that she hid a letter among the gifts.
Staff confirmed the Duchess never even touched the gifts during the loading process.
Aiden remains skeptical despite the reports from his men.
The host asks if there is anything he can do, but Aiden dismisses the offer. Aiden sighs, looking exhausted by the growing mystery.
Alone with his thoughts, Aiden wonders if he is simply overthinking his wife's actions.
A hand lifts a champagne glass at the get-up.
Camus stands alone, looking elegant yet clearly bored.
The Duchess yawns internally, wondering when Aiden will finally return to her side. Cammy was interrupted by a voice asking if she finds the drink to her liking. Earl Clovis Brunkle introduces himself with a radiant and sparkling presence.
Camus is caught off guard by that, Lau. Clovis offers a charming smile framed by bright yellow primroses.
Camus realizes she has never seen this man in society before.
Clovis asks if she has recovered from her illness, and she confirms she has.
The Earl expresses how honored he is to meet her while a violinist plays nearby.
Camus remains annoyed, suspecting his fake smile and reminding herself to be careful of rumors. Clapping hands signal that a song is finished as Clovis and Camus stand together in the grand ballroom.
Clovis politely asks the blonde woman if she would mind granting him the next dance.
Aiden interrupts the request by stating that she already has a partner, leaving the other two surprised. Framed by a floral aura, Aiden looks at his wife and asks for her confirmation.
Camus offers a small nod and a simple agreement to her husband's claim.
A faint and satisfied smile plays across the silver-haired man's lips. Clovis is visibly startled by the Duke's sudden and assertive arrival.
Aiden pulls Camus close and asks the Earl if he would mind letting her gup.
A sudden gasp escapes Camus as she finds herself pulled firmly against her husband.
The Duke maintains his confident and slightly smug expression as he claims his wife. Recognizing the tension, Clovis bows and apologizes for nearly ruining a private moment between the couple.
Clovis departs with steady footsteps while the Duke and Duchess watch him walk away.
Aiden questions if she is unhappy because he cut her conversation with the Earl short. Camus denies his claim, but Aiden wonders if she might actually be feeling jealous. The two lock eyes in a tense moment before Aiden breaks into a knowing grin. Aiden dismisses the idea of jealousy, noting that since she already belongs to him, there is no reason for it.
Camus rolls her eyes at his arrogance, convinced that he would never actually feel jealous over her.
She looks at her husband with a mixture of disbelief and lingering curiosity.
Camus asks if she is merely a possession to him rather than a partner.
Aiden reminds her that they are bound by marriage vows, leaving Camus to wonder if he is actually flustered. Camus counters by asking if he also belongs to her, to which he replies it is whatever she wishes to think.
The silver-haired man takes his wife's gloved hand firmly in his own.
Camus hesitates as she begins to speak, her husband watching her with an intense gaze. With a gentle sutta movement, Aiden places his hand on the Duchess's waist to lead her.
A silent vow to keep her word lingers in the air as the music resumes for the next dance.
The couple begins to dance together, framed by a beautiful arrangement of blooming roses.
A deep flush creeps onto Camus's cheeks as they move gracefully through the ballroom. Aiden offers a soft and uncharacteristically warm smile while they waltz.
They move in perfect harmony across the polished floor of the grand ballroom. The Duke and Duchess become the center of attention as they continue their dance. Aiden teases his wife, suggesting that her dancing skills have become a bit rusty.
They continue their waltz, the atmosphere around them filled with refined elegance. A bright Nico smile appears on the silver-haired man's face as he looks at her.
Camus stares up at him, her expression turning soft and thoughtful. The scene pulls back as they share a quiet moment, reflecting on the possibility of this being their final dance.
Camus casts her gaze downward, lost in her own complicated internal thoughts.
Morning light bathes the estate as a small bird chirps while perched on a tree branch. Walking through the garden with steady Sutta steps, Camus reflects on the previous night's events.
A delicate hand reaches out to pluck a single vibrant red rose from the garden bush.
Camus looks exhausted with heavy dark circles, admitting she could not sleep a wink last night.
Her lack of rest stems from her inability to stop thinking about Aiden during their dance.
Back in her room, Camus groans in frustration as the memory of her husband's smile haunts her.
She realizes she cannot continue like this, fearing she might derail the original story.
Camus reminds herself that she must facilitate Aiden meeting Elodie and proceed with the divorce.
A butler approaches while the Duchess wonders if she should try to evoke pity with feigned tears. The butler greets her warmly before noticing her distressed expression and becoming concerned. Camus attempts a tearful look, hoping to appear more convincing in her act of sadness.
The servant asks if she is in pain, causing Camus to panic and insists that he ignore her.
She turns and flees into the garden with quick and frantic footsteps.
Cammy shouts back over her shoulder that there is absolutely nothing wrong.
A butler with a monocle waters roses.
The servant is overcome by sudden shock. Aiden reviews a document on his desk.
Aiden reports that the gala was perfect, but the monocled butler remains deeply skeptical.
A sharp realization startles the silver-haired Gape. The Duke continues his work in solitude.
The blonde woman's tears flow freely. Victor is engulfed in a rageful aura as Aiden wonders what happened at the party. Aiden holds a sealed letter while asking if anything occurred during his absence.
Shock and disbelief grip the silver-haired man. A letter is addressed to His Grace, Aiden.
The red wax seal remains perfectly intact.
A grand feast is prepared at the estate.
Every dish was made with her favorites.
Olivier happily presents a lavish feast to Camus with the support of his maids.
Camus thanks her brother for the meal and promises to enjoy the food. She takes a slow and delicate bite. Her brother enjoys the meal beside her. Camus reflects on Olivia's frailty and his status as her only living blood relative. She remembers her previous life spent in a hospital bed surrounded by medical monitors. Her heart swells with deep, painful sympathy. The blonde woman inquires about her brother's current health while they dine. Camus offers a bright smile while reassuring Olivier that she has recovered completely.
A fork rests upon the elegant plate.
Olivier begs her to stay healthy to avoid breaking his fragile heart. A memory of their deep bond is overshadowed by the label of her foolishness.
Narration suggests she should have returned to her brother after being cast up.
Olivier expresses how proud he is of her decision to pursue a divorce.
Sudden shock leaves the blonde woman speechless.
Her brother notes his own weakness as family head despite her status as a duchess.
He admits that she has been the one supporting his useless self.
Olivier mentions their parents are proud in heaven, while Camus listens with concern.
He says he can rest now knowing the countship will pass to her future child.
Camus looks dazed and completely overwhelmed.
She hopes the Duke is doing well while feeling strangely grateful to him. Camus prepares to depart from her brother's estate as sunset approaches.
Olivier begs her to stay the night as Camus realizes why she originally stayed away.
Camus reassures him while her guard stands nearby looking entirely drained and exhausted. The carriage window reflects the setting sun. Olivier and the maids wave goodbye, noting the guard's sudden and visible fatigue. A lady waves from the departing carriage.
A dark bundle sits within the carriage.
Camus hands her guard a bundle, suggesting he eat while they travel back. She gazes thoughtfully out of the window.
Camus realizes she's already full from the sandwich her brother gave her.
A vision of her brother and maids appears framed by blooming flowers.
Everyone at her home is remarkably kind.
The blonde woman casts her eyes downward. Narration contrasts her family's warmth with the unbearable coldness of life at House Dumont. A sharp gasp escapes the blonde woman.
Camus recalls Inez's love for meat sandwiches while sweating nervously.
Zach promises his wife they will share the food together later.
The Duchess notes that Inez should have been dothering.
A gruesome past incident involves a serial killer before Elodie's adoption. Bloody footprints stain the dark ground. Narrator explains the killer targeted brown-haired women, including Inez.
A cloaked man stands over the killer's chilling tracks.
Grief causes Zach to abandon his duties after losing Inez. The broken man wanders the streets hunting for the murderer. Aiden asks Zach to return, but he refuses the Duke's orders. Aiden warns that the killer's urges will inevitably resurface. Aiden vows to capture the culprit alive for him. The two men stand together amidst the cold city backdrop.
Years later, the killer strikes again, and Elodie seeks the truth.
Elodie uses herself as bait to trap the dangerous murderer.
Hands grip a blade as Elodie prevents a summary execution.
Elodie demands the criminal face a proper trial in court.
Zach rages, claiming Inez would want justice delivered by his hand.
Elodie argues that Inez wouldn't want him to become a color.
Reminded of his promise to Aiden, Zach finally hesitates.
The narrator claims the killer's life belongs to the law. The tragedy of the victims' families weighs heavily on them. Many lost loved ones to the serial killer's cruelty. Elodie offers comfort to the grieving man in the rain. Time passed as Aiden and Elodie visit a quiet grave. Zach finds closure once legal judgment is finally passed. In the original story, Aiden adopts Elodie shortly after his divorce. Camus realizes the timeline has already shifted significantly.
Zach looks perplexed by the Duchess's sudden interest.
Camus asks to visit his home and meet his wife.
Stunned disbelief leaves the guard completely speechless.
A quick, heavy footstep thuds as Zach rushes ahead.
Zach panics about his house while Camus ignores his worries. A perked ear signals the family pet's curiosity.
The dog barks excitedly as a maid looks on.
Camus delights in petting the large, friendly dog. A brown-haired woman peeks out to investigate the noise. Inez appears, her eyes wide with surprise at the visitor. Camus is overwhelmed by how adorable the guard's wife is. Inez calms the dog while the Duchess watches. Camus warmly introduces herself to the startled brown-haired woman. Zach catches up, looking breathless and frantic. Inez gasps in shock at the Duchess's unexpected presence. The blonde Duchess offers a serene and friendly smile. The dog pants happily, seemingly approving of the guest's beauty. Inez curtsies gracefully and introduces herself to her guest. A radiant smile brightens the blonde woman's face. Camus expresses her genuine happiness at their meeting. The Duchess understands why Zach treasures his wife so deeply. Camus dismisses Zach for the day, but he acquiesces. Camus asks Zach if he suspects she is plotting something while sneaking around alone. The blonde woman offers a sly smile as the guard looks on in bewildered silence. Narration notes that she is being tailed by another person anyway. Camus giggles behind her hand, framed by dark, elegant foliage. Looking into his reflection in her blue eyes, she tells him to confirm her safe return. A brown-haired woman welcomes her as a dog barks happily in the background. The brown-haired man wonders what could possibly be on the Duchess's mind. Camus walks through a massive set of double doors bathed in great lay. The grand estate stands tall under the night sky as a servant welcomes her home. Victor greets her warmly, and Camus reflects on the end of her visit to her family home. The monocled butler looks surprised when the Duchess asks him where the newspapers are kept. Camus gives a stern command to have 6 months' worth of newspapers brought to her room. Massive stacks of archived newspapers are piled on the floor in the dim light.
Wrapped in a blanket, Camus stays up late into the night meticulously reading through the papers.
Narration reveals Inez is the 5th victim in a series of murders targeting commoner women.
The press barely covered the earlier deaths, including that of a woman named Valerie Jeunesse. Valerie was a rookie opera singer whose tragic death was quickly obscured by scandal. Despite the bloody evidence, a high-ranking patron's protection led people to dismiss it as a crime of passion. Analyzing the dates, Camus realizes the killer strikes every 6 months, with the next window approaching.
A look of sharp focus and determination fills the blonde woman's gaze.
A grim vision shows Inez lying in a flower-filled coffin, destined to die in 10 days.
Camus reflects that she might have missed this tragedy if she hadn't heard about Inez from Zach.
The Duchess identifies the killer as Marcel Pachet, a former city guard who suffered a mental break. Now working odd jobs, Marcel's next move haunts Camus as she plots how to stop him. As her carriage rolls through the busy city, she vows to save Inez and all the other victims. Camus steals her resolve, knowing she must act with extreme caution from now on. A sudden, quiet clink sounds as 2 cups of dark tea are served on a marble table. Camus and Inez share a peaceful afternoon tea together near a sunlit window.
The Duchess laughs joyfully, unaware that Zach is watching them from the bushes outside.
Hidden in the foliage, Zach realizes Camus visited solely for tea time.
A sharp realization strikes the brown-haired man as he continues his surveillance.
Camus gives off a radiant aura while mentioning she hasn't given her second pastry away yet. Zach is gripped by sudden shock, his eyes widening in disbelief. The hooded man walks away from the manor, contemplating her intention to visit someone else. Looking on from a corner, Zach realizes the location is his own home. Inez welcomes the Duchess to her house while Zach watches completely stunned. Peeking from behind a wall, the guard hears Camus say she thought of Inez when seeing the sweets. The 2 women walk into the house as Camus expresses her sincere gratitude. A sudden rhythmic clatter sounds as the carriage wheels begin to turn.
Inez waves goodbye to the departing Duchess, hoping they can have tea inside next time.
A figure silently appears behind the brown-haired woman. Inez turns in shock, wondering why someone is there. The woman looks startled as she asks why someone would visit her. Zach looks down at his wife with a stern and tense expression.
Inez smiles up at him, asking how long he has been present.
Sitting together at the table, Zach questions her about the details of their conversation. Inez explains that Camus was very friendly and wished to be treated casually. The Duchess admitted that she felt she had no one else to truly relax with.
Camus felt that everyone only saw her through the lens of her high status.
Inez notes how well they get along as Zach reflects silently on the Duchess. Narration questions a sudden, keen observation.
Camus views Inez as untainted venture.
A carriage arrives as a soft creak sounds. The Duchess looks particularly elegant today. Camus praises the refined quality of the recommended cookies. Zach watches her from the fadas. He notes her frequent recent hangings. Zach suggests the estate is suffocating, but Inez explains Camus leaves her maids behind to feel free.
Inez realizes the Duchess carries heavy burdens.
Camus shops at a local bakery.
Zach wonders if she is manipulative.
Camus holds her purchase very thoughtfully.
A quick clink sounds as he kicks a stone, frustrated by his own growing confusion. She is completely controlling the pace. A shop bell rings as she walks, followed by the heavy thud of her tailing guard's footsteps. Camus notices something suspicious in the crowd. Zach hears the rapid tap of running feet and wonders what is happening.
He wonders what she just saw. Zach wonders if she is tailing someone.
Zach struggles to track her through the noisy crowd. A sudden stop occurs as she grips her umbrella, her gaze sharpening. She watches a man enter a door with a quiet prick. A creak sounds as Zach watches her target, wondering if the man is an informant. He suspects she is leader Amon. Aiden asks Zach if he captured the man Camus was following.
Zach reports to Aiden that they did not.
Zach explains the target vanished before he could search the nearby buildings. Aiden remains silent and deep in thought.
Zach presents the residence registry and notes that they can narrow down the suspect using his physical traits.
Aiden reviews the gathered intelligence. He flips through the registry profiles. The suspect is identified as Marcel Pachet. Aiden orders a full investigation into Marcel while continuing the surveillance on Camus. Zach questions if the man is an informant, leading Aiden to ask if he suspects a trap. Zach looks visibly tense and uncertain. Aiden insists on considering all possibilities while Zach accepts the order. Aiden struggles with his desire to trust her despite the lack of proof. He wants to believe in her. Aiden hopes it truly isn't a trap. Aiden pauses his writing, his mind still fixated on the possibility of her deception. A sharp gasp escapes him suddenly. He questions his own bias. Camus welcomes a guest with a cheerful tana. Mail looks at her with surprise. The scene introduces Knight Commander Mail Cantner, who is scouted by Aiden. Mail abandoned his noble rank to serve under Aiden. Mail remarks on the oddity of his career move, but Camus hints at a secret known only to a few.
Male asks how he can serve the Duchess.
He reacts with a sudden startle. Camus mentions stumbling onto something Rizai.
Male Cantor's gaze sharpens as Camus asks if he recalls a man named Marcel Pachet.
Camus notes that Marcel served in the Capital Knight's 3rd Company 4 years ago.
A soft swallow sounds as Camus mentions Male's former rank as captain and asks for his evaluation of Marcel as a soldier.
The blonde Duchess decides to change the direction of her questioning.
Camus asks Mael if he is aware of the murder that occurred 6 months ago.
A dark memory shows a man fleeing down an alleyway while a fractured vision of a red eye appears.
Male's heart gives a sudden, heavy thump as he explains that he cannot reveal confidential internal information regarding the Knights.
A sharp, sudden scrape sounds as Mal stands up while Camus mentions the victim Valerie Jeunesse and names Marcel as the prime suspect.
Camus explains that she saw a suspicious man after the singer's final performance and later connected him to the crime through the news.
Male questions why she would assume the man was Marcel without more proof. As a vision of Inez walking her dog appears, Mael asks why the Duchess did not report her sighting immediately.
Camus admits she was uncertain and did not want to tarnish her family name on a mere guess.
A look of intense focus and resolve fills the blonde woman's house. Camus recounts spotting Inez recently while the sinister suspect watched the woman from the shadows.
Male is struck with shock as Camus confirms she recognized the man's face as the same one from the night of the murder.
The Duchess finishes her explanation by revealing she watched the man retreat into a tenement building after tailing Inez.
Male looks on in stunned disbelief as Camus explains she had her brother at her family home investigate the matter for her.